Welcome to Dan ARG YouTube. The First Lady of Edo State, Her Excellency Betsy Obaseki, dey for Zoom meeting. They talk about the things wey she dey do as the First Lady of Edo State. She also take questions from the people wey you see for this Zoom meeting. So make I leave you now, make you for hear the questions wey they ask am and the things wey she talk say in dey do as the First Lady for Edo State. Enjoy the video.
Ladies and gentlemen, it looks like the First Lady is in the house. While we welcome her, I think I'll just pass now to GBKM for the national anthem. Correct me if you have anything. Otherwise, we go straight to the national anthem.
Oh God of creation, direct our noble cause, guide our leaders right, help our youth the truth to know, in love and honesty to grow and live in just and true. Great lofty heights attain to build a nation where peace and justice shall reign. Ooh, shall reign.
Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you with all pleasure to the 5th edition of the GGO Zoom series. It's the 5th. We've had 4 before. And today is so special, and I'm super excited because we are going to be having somebody so special. And she is the First Lady of Edo State. Like it's often said, behind every successful man, there is always a woman. I really believe that. And that's why it is my honor to tell you today that we'll be hosting Her Excellency, Mrs. Betsy Ifueko Obaseki, the First Lady of Edo State. Before I go on to introduce my co-hosts for today, I'd like to set the tone that this meeting, I just want us all to know that she is not the executive governor. The session is actually to know her and ask her questions relating to how she's supposed to govern, but not questions relating to administrative or administration or governance of this state. My name is Johnson Odibo. I've been in Switzerland for the past 29 years, and I know a lot, and that's why I'm pitching my tent behind the governor and all the dreams of making Edo great again. So to start out, my two great women who are co-hosting with me today are from two ends of the world, in two continents, in Europe and in Americas. I'll start. One of them is Mrs. Adesuwa Omori Obasohan and Evangelist Gladys Ogbede. I will be handing over to Mrs. Adesuwa Omori Obasohan. Thank you. Over to you, Madam Obasohan. Okay, while we wait for Mrs. Obasohan, I would probably ask.
Okay, I'm here now. I was muted.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Odibo, for that warm introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, depends on where you are in the region of the world. It's a privilege to have a dynamic First Lady of Edo State in the house with us today. We are very pleased to have her, and as we know, she is a woman who is great at multitasking. That said, I have a brief profile to read about our First Lady, so pay attention and hear me read about what our First Lady is all about, at least a bit of it. She is the wife of the Governor of Edo State, Mrs. Betsy Ifueko Obaseki, an accountant and a development banker by profession. She is currently the head of business development in the Bank of Industry Limited, Nigeria's foremost development finance institution. Prior to this appointment, she was the managing director, BOI Investment and Trust Company Limited, a subsidiary of the Bank of Industry. She had also served as head strategy and corporate transformation in the banking industry. Before joining BOI, she was head business development in the leasing company of Nigeria, presently known as Lincoln Financial Services Limited, another subsidiary of the Bank of Industry Limited. She has had an illustrious working career as an investment banker, merchant banker, and more recently as a development banker. Her career has seen her through the foremost in indigenous accounting firm, Messrs. Akintola Williams and Co., IMB Securities Limited, and International Merchant Bank Nigeria Limited. Mrs. Obaseki served in the Federal Government Committee on outlining the blueprint for infrastructural development in Nigeria and the Central Bank of Nigeria's Committee on the Management of Intervention Funds for the Power Sector. She also participated in crafting of the Nigeria Enterprise Development Program. She is a fellow of the Institute of Credit Administrators and a member of the Institute of Directors. She is also a member of Nigeria Institute of Management, as well as the Association of Investment and Pension Managers. Mrs. Obaseki's education took her from Federal Government Girls College in Benin City through University of Lagos. She holds a BS and an MS degrees in accounting from University of Lagos. Also, she undertook a master's in international law and diplomacy. She is an alumni of the prestigious Kellogg School of Business Executive Management Program, Northwestern University, Illinois, USA. Initiatives as wife of Governor of Edo State. As wife of the Governor of Edo State, Mrs. Betsy Ifueko Obaseki continues to keep her job in the Bank of Industry while actively serving as the First Lady of Edo State. She has managed to create a perfect balance of both roles. Center for Women Development in Edo State is a structure set up by Her Excellency to house and coordinate the various activities of her office. In her capacity as wife of the governor, she champions the cause of the underprivileged and has a particular interest in the rehabilitation and empowerment of female victims of trafficking. In this regard, she has established a shelter, the Betsy's Angels Shelter, and has developed a training academy called Edo Youth Academy in collaboration with the Lady Mechanic Initiatives, the Lady Cobbler, and Amina Academy, a hospitality institute. At the academy, young women in the state are trained to become auto mechanics, shoemakers, and confectionery caterers. The training affords them meaningful skills acquisition and empowerment alongside counseling, mentoring to ensure that they are fully integrated into society. At the end of the training, they are provided with starter kits and soft loans to set up own businesses for those with capacity, and others get assistance with job placements with relevant partner companies. Mrs. Obaseki's After School Club. This is a Catch Them Young initiative and the junior version of Edo Youth Academy. It provides trainings in the same skill sets to children in secondary schools as a way of early empowerment. The After School Club targets the girl child and seeks to equip her early in life to resist the law of traffickers. Her Excellency, Mrs. Obaseki, also initiated the Edo Women for Agriculture and Enterprise, an entrepreneurial development and empowerment scheme for rural and no to low income earning women across the states. The scheme has empowered over 2,500 women in the first year of implementation, with a plan to reach a total of 18,000 women across the 18 local government areas of Edo State. Following her passion to support women in business enterprise, the First Lady has partnered with the UNIDO, supported by Hewlett-Packard Learning Initiatives for Entrepreneurs. This program is to train and build capacity of hundreds of women in business who continue to record uncommon transformation and scale up in their businesses. Among other projects, the Edo State First Lady is currently working with a team of medical practitioners in Edo State on reducing neonatal deaths in the state in a program she has tagged No Pikin Go Die Again. That said, if we decide to talk about our First Lady and her accomplishments, we will be here all day. So I'm going to stop now, and we're going to have the opportunity to interact with our First Lady. She is a dynamic woman who is able to multitask. From what I just read, you can tell our First Lady is fully capable and she holds both ends very well. Thank you and welcome to you, Her Excellency, Mrs. Betsy Ifueko Obaseki.
Evangelist Gladys, you want to take it over from there? Can you unmute yourself, please? Thank you. Unmute yourself, please, Madam Gladys.
Good evening to you, great Edolites across the nations of the earth. My name is Evangelist Gladys Osamuyime Obeide, based in Scotland. Today, I'm one of your hosts. Before I go further, thank you, Mama Obaseki. Before we go further, I'll be setting the ground rules for today's event. Like the popular saying goes, where there are no rules, the people perish. And the other way, they can do it. Having said that, one of the ground rules, the number one ground rule for today is, please, you must name your device. Your device must be named so that we can properly identify you. Secondly, your microphones must be off until you are asked to speak. Number 3 is, please, your video must be off if you want to get getting other things attended to. Number 4, one question per person. Please, we beg of you to give other people space to ask their own question. And number 5 is, please, your question time should not be more than 90 seconds, which means 1 minute and 30 seconds. Thank you, as we all enjoy this interaction time with Her Excellency. Over to you, Mr. Odibo.
Yeah, probably, Madam Gladys, you may want to follow up with maybe Her Excellency is already in the house. Would you have a question for Her Excellency, Madam?
Oh, yes. Welcome, Your Excellency. It is our pleasure to have you with us today, interacting with us across the Edos, across the nations of the earth. We are so excited to have you. Ma, it's so interesting for us to know that actually you attended the federal government's guest college in Benin City. How amazing that is. But please, I want you to just drive us through the memory lane, your experience in Benin at that age. We want to know so that we can properly rub our minds with you today. Thank you, Your Excellency.
Thank you so very much for having me on today. Let me just start by saying a big thanks again to everyone, especially to my hosts today, and good evening, good afternoon, and good morning to everyone, depending on what part of the world you are. Yes, I was one of the early students that attended the Federal Government Girls College in Benin City. I spent 5 years there, left after my school cert, and it was a very special school because it was fairly new at the time. And it was in those good old days where you had the best of teachers, and we had teachers from different parts of the country and also from outside of the world. Outside of the country, different parts of the world. So we had a good crop of teachers who I'll be eternally grateful to for, contributing to making me who I am today. So it was a very good time I had in Benin in those days. I made a few friends. I do have friends who I still keep till today. Perhaps some of them might be online tonight. One of them is sure somebody that must be familiar to quite a few of you. Her name is Ifueko. I also had a close friend whose name at the time was Kate Gobadia. She's now married to a Rivers doctor. She's now Mrs. Iketubose. So I had quite a few Edo friends, Benin friends at the time.
Thank you, Your Excellency. That was amazing. Mr. Odibo.
You really nailed it, Your Excellency. And I think you got a fan, and I'm one of your greatest fans, I must tell you. Because if I see what your husband is doing, the governor of Edo State, in fact, I just cannot wait, till I get to Benin. In any case, I'm really happy to be here. You've really, really nailed it. But something really crosses my mind. Sometimes if I see what the governor does, and you being the wife, and how you are able to work with such a busy man. Sometimes I say, and then you're looking at the citation, listening to it. It just makes me begin to wonder, how do you cope with all this? How do you manage and being a wife, being this first lady of a state, running this kind of initiatives, that you set up on your own? I mean, you must be a superwoman. Come on, tell us a little bit about it.
Well, I guess God has a way of preparing you for His purpose, and one may not, know it, but when you're thrown, you find yourself right in the midst of God's purpose and plan for your life. You then realize that all of the years prior were years of preparation. I think some of the things that have helped me to continue to live a normal life, in spite of the heavy demands of the two huge portfolios, the fact that I'm still working. My husband and I had the decision, we made the decision early in the day, just before he came out to campaign 4 years ago. He and I had agreed that I'll retain my job. And because he figured I had a promising career and he didn't want to deprive me of actualizing my own potentials in life. And the way we looked at it was him becoming governor was his own job, was a new job he was taking on. And I had my own. And so it would have been unfair for me to give up my job because he's acquiring a new one. So we both had to continue working. And the fact that I have retained my work life has helped me to be grounded, more or less. My life hasn't changed. When I'm in Lagos, I'm a regular human being the way I was before I got pulled into this whole thing. And it's only when I'm in Benin that, I have to cope and deal with the fussing that comes with the position. But anywhere outside of Benin, I try to, continue to live my regular, normal life. So that helps me a great deal to balance things. And I have a very understanding husband who isn't fussy at all. He respects, always has respect for one's position and one's aspirations. And all he tries to do is to be supportive. And with his support, life has been fairly easy. We are both very simple, normal, regular human beings. And really nothing has changed. He's working now as governor the same way he worked before he became governor. He's, you know that they call him a technocrat. He's a professional. He had his own business before he became governor, and he was very, very successful with his business. So he's always had this culture of strong work ethics. He has always woken up at 6 in the morning from the day I married him till tomorrow. He does that, wakes up in the morning, gets his exercise, takes a shower, has his little breakfast, and heads out to the office. He did that before he became governor. He continues to do that. He finishes from the office, comes back home, takes another shower, changes his clothing, and goes right back to his home office, which is where I'm talking to you from, and continues to work with lots of files on his table. He just continues to work until about midnight or 1 a.m. He does that every day of the week. He did that before he became governor, and he continues to do that. So I'm used to it, and we're both professionals, and we're both used to, working. And I guess being governor is a lot more work. So it's like food for him. So he continues he's been trained that way. He's always lived that way. And so for him, it's a piece of cake. He takes it in his stride. So that's really the main reason why I'm able to cope with both roles.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. You really nailed it. It just reminds me, when you say this is it, like Michael Jackson once had a music, or this last album said, this is it. I would have said, yes, this is it. I use that word for you too, because you really nailed it. And I really give you a round of applause. Thank you so much. We're so proud to have you as our First Lady now and even in the next term as well. Before I hand over to my colleagues for questions, let me reassure the House that, look, we are going to be taking 2 questions from the House in groups. So we'll get 2 questions from the floor, from the House, and then ask these and then take another set of 2 questions. That's how we're going to follow suit today. So I'll ask my co-host, Madam Obaseki, to start with the questions already waiting.
Okay, thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. The first question from the Zoom floor, I see some hands up right now. We are going to ask 2 questions like you rightly said. And the first one will be from Dr. Sakpawa Agbons. While Dr. Sakpawa Agbons is asking his question, I'm asking Ms. Agnes Olotu to unmute her phone. So the floor is over to you, Dr. Sakpawa. Dr. Tony Osakpawa Agbons, I see your hand up. Please ask your question of the First Lady.
Thank you very much, Madam. Good evening to all Edolites worldwide. Your Excellency, ma, what was it like the first time His Excellency Governor Godwin Obaseki told you about his aspiration to go for the office of Governor of Edo State? Because looking at both of you, your backgrounds, you are not the typical politician types. What was your reaction that fateful day he broke the news to you?
Indeed, it was a fateful day because all I did for a couple of days was kicking and crying and saying, no, you're not going to go. No, you're not going to go. And he kept begging and saying, I promise you, I'm just going to go do 1 day a week, show them the work and come back. And I kept crying all of the day, the following day, and saying that I wasn't going to let him do it. I said to him that, so you mean you're going to leave your business as managing director of a company you've labored so hard to build, to go do government work. And he said to me, I knew already that it was something he didn't want to do. Let me just rewind a little back to the events that led up to him accepting to come run as governor and to become governor. Many years ago, he belonged to an association in Lagos, the called the Edo Renaissance. It's, I think they still exist. It's a group of young Edo men, young, successful Edo men, mostly in the private sector, who were doing very well back in Lagos State. And they got together and decided that, they wanted to give back to their states. They kept saying to themselves that, look, we're all here doing very well. And our state is, nothing to write home about. The state isn't doing well at all. And this is a state that has huge potentials, even in terms of human capital. Look at also the people here in Lagos doing well. And we can't bring we can't bring Edo to Lagos. So the best we can do is to give back. And so they began to look for someone to take over government at the time. So they had vowed to themselves that they weren't going to let anyone become governor after that particular regime that was, in place at the time, that they were going to make sure whoever became governor was somebody that they had a hand in bringing on board. So they began to look around for a prospective candidate that they were going to back. And my husband was the one who identified the former governor, Mr. Adam Toshomole. He didn't know him personally, he didn't know him from Adam, but he, like most of us, were familiar with his labor activism. And he said to his friends, this man is an Edo man. Some of them didn't even know he was Edo. And this is the sort of man that we need to take over power, because he's a fighter. He's always fighting for the masses. That was the way he was perceived. Watching his activities on TV, in the papers, he came across most people as a fighter for the underdogs, for the less privileged, for the masses. And so he had that reputation. And so my husband thought he was going to make a good candidate. And so he went and approached him, himself and a friend of his, looked for someone who knew him well. And the person took them to him. And they tried to convince him to run. And he refused initially, but ended up agreeing to run. And then my husband brought him on board, brought him to Lagos, called his friends, the same people in the association, and told them eventually that he had agreed to run. And so they rallied around him, and then they raised money and sent him to Benin to run. So they did that bit, and then he came to Benin, and others gave him the platform and all of that. And he ran, lost the election to PDP at the time, went to the tribunal, continued to fight with my husband's support, because according to him, when he told the story, he kept saying that there was this young man who kept believing in him and pushing, telling him, comrade, don't give up, fight, keep fighting, until he won. And then after he won, my husband then said to him, now that you've won, so what are your plans? And then he goes, well, I never thought about it, I've been busy, just been busy fighting. So he called some of his friends, Aso Igudalo, I remember, is one of them. And then they sat around him and drew up an 8-year program, which they call the Edo Project. And they said to him, drew it up, I believe they sat for a few days and came up with a plan and said to him to go implement it. It was at that stage he held on to my husband and said he had to come with him to do work. In his words, he said he was going to be in front doing the politics, and my husband would be behind him doing the work. So it was at that stage that he'd asked my husband to come join him, and my husband absolutely refused. And so I was in shock when he eventually told me he was going to help him to do the work. Now, I think I'm talking about the first 8 years of Adams Oshimole when my husband helped with the work. But I think your question is about when he said he was going to run. Is that the story?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that was one part of the story, the first 8 years. And then the beginning of when he then decided he was going to run that's another story. He was very sure that wasn't what he wanted in his life. After spending 8 years, supporting Adams Oshimole working in Edo, he felt he had, and he did all of that gratis, without pay. For him, it was his own contribution to the development of his state. So eventually, he did that. And when that regime was ending, I recall that people had asked him to run, and he had told them absolutely not. That wasn't what he wanted at all. So a few months down the line, I was shocked when he came and told me he was running. And I then said to him, who convinced you? He then told me the story of how, he had a meeting with the former governor at the time and with a very close friend, mutual friend of theirs. And it was at that meeting, it was agreed that he was going to run. At that point, I guess I had suffered 8 years of having him fly to Benin every week, as he promised, 1 day a week, became 2 days a week, 3 days a week, and then it was 5 days a week. He'd go on Sunday evening and return Friday night, every week for 8 years. And so I was not ready for him to have anything to do with government. So I kicked against it, and he didn't want it as well until he eventually decided to run. So I guess at the point when he had made up his mind he was running, I had gone through, let me call it a spiritual journey, where I had people who I came across, 1 or 2 people I came across that I never knew from Adam, who were ministers of God, and who began to prophesy to me that my husband was going to become the next governor of Edo State, and I kept begging them to stop. And so when it happened that he had agreed to run, I realized that was God's plan, and that I had no option but to accept and to support him, trusting that God, who had, carved out that path for him, would be with us to see us through it all. So at that stage, I had no other option but to accept.
Thank you.
Gosh. Thank you, Madam, for that beautiful answer. That was something that we all look forward to listening to. So the next person with the hand up is Agnes Olotu. Please ask your question. Agnes Olotu, I see your hand up. Please ask your question.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello, everyone. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you so much, Her Excellency Betsy Obaseki, for an invitation. Actually, we heard of the good things to be doing in Edo State and the project you have for the states. Actually, my question is, what is your plan to get to the grassroots, especially those in the rural areas with no mobile phone, no internet, and electricity? How do you intend to incorporate them into the system, make it an inclusive project, by making achieve appreciative? Thank you.
I'm wondering if that question isn't one for the governor. himself. But however, I'll just talk a bit on my
Sorry?
own. Can you hear me?
Can I repeat?
I heard you all right. I was asking you.
Yeah, my question is, how do you
Mrs. Olotu, Her Excellency said, can you hear her?
I believe her internet is wobbling. Madam, Her Excellency, go ahead, ma. Answer the questions because I understand. I'm sure you understand what she said.
I can hear you, but
Okay, good. Okay. I was asking you back that I'm wondering if that question isn't more appropriate for the governor. However, I'm going to respond to the extent that extent of the little work that I've done as a wife of governor. And let me also make it clear here that the office of the wife of governor is a non-constitutional one. What that means is the wife operates to the extent that her husband, the governor, allows her to. Okay, so it's not all governors' wives that are, what's the word now, that are active in economic and developmental activities in the states. Luckily, I happen to have a background of finance and development finance in particular. And so I've always, by way of training and exposure, been one that looks out for every opportunity to create value and to bring about, help people to improve on whatever enterprise that they're doing. And so coming over here to Edo State as wife of governor, I made sure that I brought that to the table. Incidentally, the Bank of Industry where I work is Nigeria's foremost development finance institution, and it's federal government owned. And our main mandate is to catalyze industrial development across the country. We work in partnership with state governments and with development partners within and outside of the country. In every, what they call the real sector, in every sector of our economy. And so I can't but bring the wealth of knowledge that I have from my job to bear to benefit the people of Edo State, particularly the women of Edo State. So what I've done since we've been here in the past 4 years was to help strengthening female entrepreneurs, existing ones, to scale up their businesses and to be more productive. I've also tried to reach out to the rural women where you say there's no internet and no telephones and all of that. I assure you in Nigeria is one of the most telecommunications savvy countries. Nigerians are very mobile people, and I doubt if there's any Nigerian who doesn't have a mobile phone. I have worked with some of the women in the rural areas. I have a few initiatives, as was read in my profile. I have a program or a project that I call the Edo Women for Agriculture and Enterprise, working and planning to work with more women in the area of agriculture, rural women, farmers, female farmers in the villages. And there are all kinds of apps and initiatives that have been developed across the world that we're trying to deploy here in Nigeria and also in our state to foster inclusion, financial inclusion and enterprise inclusion across the states. That's a major area of focus for us in particular, particularly in the Bank of Industry and also for the federal government. There are all kinds of schemes here to engender financial and entrepreneurial inclusion across the country. And so we have some expertise there in the Bank of Industry. So I'm working in collaboration with my bank and with the state government here to support that process. You must have heard of the federal government program where they were disbursing different sums. They have the market money and the YES program for young people, youth corpers, and for petty traders across the country. The Bank of Industry is the federal government's disbursement arm. Was so up until a few months ago when there were some changes made. And so we have acquired a lot of expertise there. And what I'm doing is to bring that to the table here in Edo State and help support the program. Already I have recorded some success with a particular program that I started a few years ago here. The vision was to make Edo State, the ultimate vision was to make Edo State the poultry hub of Nigeria. And so we had a customer in the Bank of Industry that we had nurtured, who has become one of the largest, if not the biggest poultry experts in the country. And so he had developed a particular species of bird, of chicken, which is like a cross between, it's like, it mimics the native chicken that you find in villages, the free-range type chicken that's, scavenges around the compound and, survives by just scavenging, that you really don't have to feed with, poultry feed. So that was a type of breed that he had developed. And I then got him to come to Edo State, to use Edo State as a pilot. And so we brought this and we recorded a huge success. I was able to do about 2,500 women, and these are rural women. It was geared to support the low and no income earning women in the villages. It was for the very poor who had no income and who could breed. Most of the women in the villages know how to just breed a few chickens in the compound. So those are the women that were targeted, and they did very well. So the plan is to escalate that and to replicate that across the states over time, and hoping that we will now eventually have a huge crop of female poultry farmers who would then be feeding established large poultry farms and with processing plants, thereby ultimately making Edo the poultry hub for the country. So that's one thing we've done. I've done it with my small office with rural women. That's been successful.
Reiterate before, thank you very much, Your Excellency. I'd just like to reiterate to the House, again, I said it before, that questions should be directed on her role as First Lady and not governance and administration. I just want us to bear that in mind. At this point, I'll leave you with my co-host for the next questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. That was an amazing answer, and thank you for what you do for Edo State. We really, really are proud of you. Your Excellency, my next question is this. I have seen some videos going around on social media about not having your biological children. And some of us are in this position now, just like me, Evangelist Gladys Osamuyime Obeide. And there are so many other people in this position, both men and women. But man, how with your office and going through that is going on, everybody is talking about it. Some people close to us has actually sent us some of those videos or write-up. how do you now encourage, with so much that you do, how do you now encourage people who are going through, or the Edo women or Edo men who are going through these same, I wouldn't say it's a setback in my own opinion, but what do you have to say to encourage them? That is my question to you, ma.
Well, every normal and sensible human being knows that children are blessings from God. And it's only depraved minds that would dare make such comments. I've had people talk about it, but I haven't bothered to watch the video. I really wouldn't waste my precious time and energy to dissipate it on pointless and hopeless attempts to at another human being. So my advice to anyone in that situation is God's time is the best. Everything is in God's hands, first and foremost. If anyone makes you feel or tries to make you feel bad about not having children at this point in time, I think what you should do is to have pity on such a human being and not to bring yourself down to that level, because that is the basest and the lowest level any human being can bring themselves down to. You take it back to God and say, Lord, hear what they are saying about me. And I bet you God would answer you, perhaps even faster because of the insults. Okay? That's on the human and the spiritual level. Then on the physical, naturally, you have to investigate, have some medical investigation to determine, find out exactly what it is. There are all kinds of reasons. Sometimes it's called unexplained, infertility, okay? Sometimes everything's working perfectly in your body and it isn't happening, okay? That's the reason, that's the time when you either wait patiently. The most important thing is to get it out of your mind and don't get anxious about it, as I am doing. And I've actually gotten so used to it that it really never crosses my mind. And if it's recommended by the medical practitioners that you do what they call assisted, there are all kinds of, they call them IVF, assisted reproductive interventions, okay? These are commonplace now, worldwide, even in Nigeria. You could avail yourself to those treatment options and hope and pray that it works. I know that it doesn't work all the time. It very rarely works. So that's another place where you also have to be patient, okay? And the most important thing is to get it off your mind. It always usually happens when you're not even thinking about it, okay? Even if you're doing any of those medically assisted procedures, you have to try to just be calm, be relaxed, and set your mind on something else. Get busy with something else, with looking after other children. God has given me such a huge project here with my husband being governor that I don't even have enough time to do the things I'd like to do, much less to worry about anything. So the best place to be, if you're in that kind of position, is to just get busy with other meaningful things, to touch other people's lives for good, to impact on other people's lives, and trust in God. Make it a point to ask him specifically what you want and leave it in his hands to do what only he can do. And if you can help yourself medically, I'll advise that you also do that. Every way is God's way.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Let me try to maybe just add this to it for those in the house, or maybe Her Excellency forgot to mention that she has so many children, actually. If you look at the Edo Best, how her husband, the governor, is impacting children in the state. And even every one of us here, you know, she is a mother to us. If Edo is good tomorrow, we are the product. We are the ones that is going to tell her. So, Madam, Your Excellency, I give you a round of applause because you've produced so many children, and it's going to be so. Please, everyone, I give her, please. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And yes, having said that, I'd like to call on the other two people who've raised their hands on the floor that want to ask questions. I will just read the names. I'll read both names whose hands have been up. One of them is Queen Igbinake, and then the other person is Dr. Antonia Adedavo. So first of all, Miss Queen Igbinake, don't forget you have 90 seconds. Just go straight to the point. Over to you. You can unmute yourself, please, and ask a question. Queen, are you here with us? Is Queen, if she can be, if you can unmute Queen, or unmute yourself, Queen?
I did. Can you hear me, please?
Loud and clear.
Okay.
Straight with your
You're
question.
welcome, Your Excellency. It's so nice to see you and hearing all these amazing words from you. Straight to my question. I'm Queen Igbinake, and I live in the state of California. And I'm as an educator and a curriculum developer. So I'm straight to my question, man. How do you successfully organize a diverse group of women in Edo State to accomplish a task dedicated to supporting your husband's political goal? Women being a difficult group to employ women in the house.
Interesting question. My experience here has been different. I have to say, I'm not saying this just to make people feel good, but truthfully, I can tell you that it's been much easier and a lot more pleasant than I had anticipated with the women here. We have just been blessed, my husband and I, with amazing women around us. I don't know if you've heard about, I don't know what the governor spoke about when you had your Zoom sessions with him. I know that he's always boasting about the women in his cabinet, how they perform better than the men. Sorry, guys. And he says this.
It's understood.
Before his meal team, and they never argue, they never frown, they concur because they know it's the truth. I call them Obaseki and Obaseki's angels. Every woman in his cabinet happens to hold, and those, not just the commissioners, but the special advisors and the heads of agencies, as you are well aware of Edo Best and the others, they all hold very important and sensitive portfolios, and they've done excellently well with them. So that's saying one thing with the women in government. You also know that, well, the major thing that's made it easy is we happen to have a governor who is women friendly. I wouldn't say gender friendly. Gender is both male and female. He has a bias in favor of women. I think the reason being that he comes from a home where his mother has all sisters. His grandmother didn't have any male child. She had all girls. And she trained every one of them. As a matter of fact, they all schooled in England in those, as far back as, over 50 years ago. So he had grandparents who valued education and ensured that their daughters all had the best in terms of education. So he was brought up in a home where a lot of respect and honor was accorded women. And so he naturally, he's not your typical African man. He gives a lot of deference to women. So that's made it easy. And that's one of the things I enjoy as his wife. He's an extremely supportive man. And because he has some extra respect and value for women, it's easy for me to, make proposals to him at home, campaign for the women, and get him to accede to practically every request I've made for the women in Edo State. My husband has been 100% supportive. Anything I open my mouth to say, oh, we must do this for the women, blah, blah, blah. Before I finish making the request, he grants it. So that has helped a lot. And you must have heard that he has over 400 women in his government. He appointed over 400 women in his government, various levels. He created new lines of employment or engagement for women that never existed before. So the women in Edo are very happy with their governor. They keep saying, no, we've never had it so good. We've never had it so good. He also goes on and on about how he's found that the women are more loyal than the men. He noticed that when he came to campaign 4 years ago, first time as governor. He found that the women were the more loyal ones. They were the more dedicated ones. They were the ones that were more trustworthy, especially with money. And they were the ones who would go out more to vote. They were also the ones who would stay to defend their votes. The men would usually escape and run away after a while. But the women would stay there and would deliver. So he has a lot of faith and confidence in women. And so the fact that I'm also a working woman and a professional, it's easy for me to want to push to support women's agenda here, for women empowerment and women inclusion in everything. And so that's the reason it's happened. I push for it, and he grants me my every request. So it's made that's why it's been easy for the women here.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. So I will be taking the next question from Dr. Antonia Adadevo. Forgive me, I pronounced it wrongly the first time. It's Antonia Adadevo. Over to you. Unmute yourself, please. Hello, Antonia, are you with me? Are you with us? Can you unmute yourself? And if anyone is...
He is unmuted.
Thank you. Louder, just coming slowly, not quite.
Can you hear me?
You're not loud enough, but we can hear you. It's very faint. Antonia? Hello?
We'll just go to another person, sir.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you back online?
I think she's muted herself again.
Can you unmute yourself again, madam?
Can you hear me?
Your audio, you are close to your mic, to your computer or your device. Two devices are conflicting.
Okay, can you hear me?
Just barely.
Oh, barely. Okay, I don't know. This is the way. I just came out of another Zoom meeting.
Now this is better now.
Now, yes.
Okay.
So you can ask your question.
Okay. Good evening, Your Excellency. We are delighted to have you today, and I've really enjoyed all what you have answered. Okay, my question is, how easy is it for women in the state to access microfinance loans?
Very easy.
Hello?
Is that enough an answer?
Yes. Can you just talk about some processes? I also have an initiative.
All right, I'll explain. I'll expound on that.
Okay, thank you.
There are many microfinance banks in Nigeria. They've been existing for a few decades. And incidentally, Edo State has the most prominent, the most successful, and the largest one. It's called LAPO. Have you heard of LAPO? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. No, I haven't heard of it.
Okay. It's owned by an Edo indigene, and the headquarters is here in Benin City. It's the largest microfinance, privately owned microfinance bank in the country. Proudly Edo. In the Bank of Industry where I work, because at a point in time we were made to service the micro, small, and medium enterprises. Initially, the Bank of Industry was set up to service the large enterprise sector of the economy. That is to help, support and build and create large industrial projects. But after a while, we were asked to also look into not just the small, but the micro, small, and medium enterprise space, mostly because of the issue of inclusion that we talked about. So in doing that, we realized that we were not structured to do that. And so we had to enlist the support of microfinance organizations across the country. Because to be able to do that effectively, we had to now start opening branches all over the country, and that was not the way the bank was set up to operate from inception. Otherwise, would have become a commercial bank or a microfinance bank. And so we started looking around the country for suitable microfinance institutions that we could work with. So LAPO featured prominently. That's when we got to know that it was the largest and the most successful and owned by a Benin man. And so it's available here for...
Excuse me, Your Excellency. Sorry for the interruption. May I announce to the House, if anyone is not speaking, please mute yourself because it's interfering with audio. Please mute yourself. I'm sorry about that.
That's okay. So, so apart from LAPO, there are a few other microfinance institutions here in the States, most of which the government partners with. There is, then on the side, going back to the Bank of Industry, several years ago in the previous regime, when my husband was working, supporting the governor here as the chairman of the economic team, I got my bank to sign up with the Edo State government at the time. I was heading that portfolio at the time where we were, we created a fund in the Bank of Industry, which we call the State Government Small and Medium Enterprise Fund. We did that to support state governments across the country. So what we did was to go from state to state and propose to them that if they gave us some money, whatever free money they could afford, whatever the amount was, the Bank of Industry would match it. So it was a state matching fund, would match it, and that fund would be set up to service the small and medium enterprises in the state. It was available to not just indigents, but all residents of any state. You could be a non-Edo person, for instance, but as long as you live here and you operate here as a business person and you qualify, you could avail, the fund was made available to you. So that was set up perhaps maybe 8 or more years ago. And so those sort of schemes are available. It still exists in the States at the moment. Apart from that, I also recall I had a very interesting experience with the market women. When I came on board initially, I was trying to get the bank to make funds available to support market women in the States. And I had a meeting with the market woman, one of the market women, major market woman leader here. And she made it clear to me that market women already had they had some system of supporting one another with loans. I think they call it the Esusu system here. It's a popular name here in this part of the world, where they make contributions on a monthly or some regular basis, and create a pool of funds which they make available to themselves as and when they need. And I think it's at little or no interest. And so that makes any other form of funds not attractive to them. Because if you're a bank and you're giving them money, your interest rate cannot beat theirs. And the list that the Bank of Industry, by the way, happens to be the one bank that has concessionary rates in the country, from the large enterprise to the micro and small. There's no bank that charges as low as the interest rates that we charge, because we are federal government owned, and it's highly, our funds are highly subsidized. So we're the cheapest bank in the country. So even at that, our funds were usually given at between 5 to 10% maximum, and that's per annum, not per month. So the cheapest you would get at perhaps 5, and sometimes if it's a special fund, you get it at 3% per annum. So that's really cheap. However, this wasn't attractive to the market women because they had their own arrangements at a lot cheaper. So the only way you can fund market women, for instance, particularly in Edo, is by either giving them the money free as a grant, or you give it to them at no interest. Even at no interest, they tend to prefer their own arrangement. So that is the way that sector is serviced. But if you want to carry out any small or medium-sized enterprise business in Edo State currently, you would have access to the BOI Edo State Matching Fund program, which I think was running as of the last time I checked at 5%, because what happened was the Bank of Industry charged 1% on the fund, and then the state government is expected to charge their own 1%, but the state government here opted to forfeit their own portion of the interest. So the interest, the fund comes to the beneficiaries at 5% per annum, which is very cheap. So that's available. You also have the microfinance banks, which are a lot more expensive. I think they do something like 9% per month. I'm not too sure. Which comes to close to, over 100% per annum. But you know, these microfinance banks usually service very short-term transactions. They're usually for traders, buy and quickly sell. So those are available. There are quite a few, apart from Lapo, there are a few others. So that's available. And then there are also, I think there's some intervention funds from the central bank which is available also here in Edo State. I think the central bank made 2 billion naira available to the state government a few years ago, and that's still running. So all of those are available, and you can very easily qualify to access any one of these loan facilities.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for the detailed explanation. So I think everyone in the House got some insight into how to acquire loans, grants, and also thank you for the question as well. Going back to the House, I just want to announce to you now that the chat is now open. So we're going to be picking questions from the chat. So if you have your questions on the chat, I think they will be, I will try as much as possible to pick as much as possible within the time window that we have. So I'll hand you over now to Mrs. Obasohan, but please, House, if you're not speaking, mute your phones, mute. And the other thing, you should only have one device. You can't be logged on with 2 devices, so we can identify you, please, okay? So I'll hand over to my co-host, Mrs. Adesola Obasohan. Over to you for the first question from the chat.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Thank you. Thank you so much. That was nice. To our First Lady, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. That said, the first question from the Zoom link, it's from one of our ladies, Mrs. Ebegwe Ogiame, who is a very staunch supporter of your husband. Her thing is basically to say thank you so much to you, and thank you to the governor for his transparency, the transparency he brought to Edo State governors is really appreciated across the globe. That is her compliment to you to take back to our governor, that we truly appreciate his sense of transparency in governance. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I think there should be other questions. My other host, do you have Evangelist Gladys Ogbede? Please unmute yourself.
Okay. Your Excellency, the next question is from the Zoom chat, and the person of Omoniho Olumese. She says, is the First Lady liaising with other women advocacy group to help mobilize more women for the election? Have you been meeting with them? Do you think we have enough women representations in your husband's cabinet?
Thank you so much. I mean, is that all?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I think I have another one from the chat from Delphine E. It's just a note that I have that I'll read to you, Your Excellency. And she says, one elderly advice to everyone unmarried in a house: when you're ready to do so, make sure your choice of partner reflects your values, beauty, brains, and decorum, like our First Lady. Our Excellency Betsy Obaseki is a winner any day. Edo State is blessed to have Governor Godwin Obaseki as our own. I think she deserves a round of applause. I mean, that's so touchy, really. Thank you. Wow. I think all the men in the house don't just get jealous at all. It's just part of it because she really deserves it. So I would hand over now to just 1 second. So the name to read the chat, Gladys, I will hand over to you. Probably have some people from the chat. Do you have some? Evangelist Gladys, please.
No, I don't think so for now.
Okay. I think from the Zoom floor, we have 2 persons, Ken Oloye, and the second is Ambassador Sado Theophilus. So get ready. So I will call on Ken Oloye to ask. Again, it's just 90 seconds for your questions. Thank you. Unmute yourself, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Good evening.
loud and clear.
Okay, good evening, Your Excellency. My name is Mr. Ken Oloye, the convener of Bende Schools Reunion. I'm a travel and tourism consultant and a social and public affairs commentator. My question is this: where did you meet your husband, Honorable Governor? And number two, you look so pretty. How do you keep up? What kind of cream do you use? It's so pretty.
Oh, Lord.
Thank you very much. I'm very serious, madam. Don't be shy. Maybe after the election, you can come with a Betsy Obaseki's cream.
I'm waiting for the answer to because I need those creams as well.
That shining black. No. Madam, I'm serious. Johnson, thank you very much.
All right.
I know you're. I can tell you're serious. And you're giving me ideas, huh, on how to make billions.
Yes.
Devising my own, creating my own brand, my own cream, and giving it my name brand.
I'll be the first person to buy.
Thank you for the huge compliment. I hate makeup. I hate things artificial. So it's not about creams. I don't have any particular cream that I use. Though I happen to be a freak for organic products. So everything I use on my body and whatever we use to cook are usually organic, meaning they're chemicals free and paraben free and all of those free. But they're just basic regular creams. Nothing special. Nothing at all special. Yeah, so that's it. What was your other question? Oh, how did I meet my husband? Interesting. That's an interesting one. That's another very interesting circumstances. My husband had worked in a bank called International Merchant Bank several years before myself, before I got my first job there. He left the bank. It was a foremost merchant bank in those days. And I think they were affiliated to First Chicago in America. So he left the bank with the managing director at the time, who was also the first managing director of the bank. He is now a king, His Royal Highness Ebitimi Banigo. He founded that bank. He was, the first MD. I think it was federal government owned at the time. So they left the International Merchant Bank at the time to set up his own bank, which was called the All States Trust Bank. And so after he left the bank, a few years after he left the bank, I got employed there. It was my first real job. And unknown to me that when I was employed, I was given a desk. That desk happened to have been Governor Obaseki's desk when he worked in the bank. Okay. So he would come round to the bank to see his friends. At the time, his closest friend happened to be my immediate boss in the bank at the time. And he was quite fond of me. So whenever my husband would come to the bank, he would naturally look in the direction of his desk where he sat and notice this young lady. Then he would ask his friend, my boss, about me. And his friend, being, a good friend, would also encourage him. And then he used to send me, this boss of mine, used to send me to every seminar, every course, and every conference that's crossed his path in the bank. He would send me to attend. And then on this particular occasion, there was a particular conference, interestingly, was happening in Benin City at the time. It was a Nigerian Stock Exchange seminar. And then my husband's bank also had sent him on that same for that same seminar. And so we met proper in Benin City for that seminar. So that was when he mustered the courage and the labor to begin to attempt to chase me. And then it took 5 long years before I agreed to go out with him. And within a year after agreeing to date him, we got married. So that's how we met.
Wow. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Your Excellency. It really see the resolve of your husband, the executive governor, his resolve to change the state. I think he really believes in something and something good. He pursues it to the end. I like those people. I mean, that's why I'm really, anchored, with his administration or with him and with you people, with all the Edos, to make sure we fulfill that vision that we have for Edo, and you have. Thank you. So, my Ambassador Sado Theophilus, are you ready with your question? Please unmute yourself. Ambassador Sado Theophilus, are you in the house? And if you are, please unmute yourself. So you ask your question. Are you here with us?
I'm hearing you.
Thank you, sir. So go ahead.
Good evening.
Can you move your camera? Let's see your face a little bit. We just see light.
Oh, what is wrong?
We don't know. We don't know if it's moonlight in your sitting room, but come on.
No.
So let's see.
We are your back.
I can only see the light on the ceiling. Your camera is pointing to the heavens.
What is wrong?
We don't know. Let's see your face, please.
Oh.
Your time. Well, it depends on how you're sitting down, please. You have 90 seconds, please. Ask your question. It's just a general rule. You see my face, don't you?
Yes, I'm seeing your face.
Good. So let's see your face, Ambassador.
Are you seeing it now?
No, I'm still seeing your camera. It's not. It's just the sun showing the sunlight. I don't know.
I don't know. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Good evening, good afternoon, good morning to you all. Are you hearing me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear.
My name is Ambassador Sado Theophilus. I'm based in Port Harcourt. I am a fan of Obaseki government. I've been one of the campaign team in this 2020. I'm so privileged to listen to Her Excellency this evening because I've been eager to speak with her all this while, but the opportunity have not been given. When I got the invitation this afternoon, I said I must be part of this program. Your Excellency, Ma, I want to thank you for the good things you have for the people of Edo State. Because there's this adage that said, every successful man is in the hands of the woman.
Let me remind you that you have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Just go straight to the question.
My question is this. Your Excellency, what is your plan towards achieving this Obaseki 2020 governorship election to ascertain to coin the women into the system, because women are the key role in electoral process? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's similar to a question someone asked earlier that I hadn't addressed. Something similar to working with women to ensure the re-election of the governor. There's so many support groups. A lot of them are women run and women manned, and I've had several of them, come to pay courtesy visits and to pledge their support for the governor in the past several weeks. And there's so many more that I may not be able to attend to. But the interesting thing is that a lot of them are already working on their own, spending their own money, campaigning for the governor without us even knowing them. And one good thing that has happened, and I've been told is the first time it's happening, perhaps even in Nigeria. The governor agreed. I made the proposal to him because he goes on and on about the women being the reliable ones, blah, blah, blah. And then I said to him, if that's the case, then make sure your re-election, the second time around, your campaign, you must ensure that you give the women their own space. Because usually when you put the women with the men always oppress the women and never give them a chance. They control everything and always put the women in the background. And so you must set up the women separate from the men with this election. And he agreed. It was even behind my back. I had traveled out of town and I was called to say that, oh, the governor has set up a women's campaign team separate from the main campaign team. He's also given you a campaign office for the women. And he then told me to draw up my own list of women to be inaugurated in the Women's Campaign Council. It's happening for the first time in this country. So as I'm speaking to you, I actually came in a little late to this meeting because I was in a meeting with the Women Campaign Council, members, planning our own campaign for this election. So the governor has empowered us fully, given us our own council, given us our own secretariats. He's given us our own vehicles. We have our own branded vehicles, buses and cars, where we have Edo Women for Obaseki printed. And he's given us our own financial means to run our own campaign. He said to me, you just run your own campaign with the women, do your own thing. So we are starting our own campaign on Tuesday next week. The governor's been doing his. So the women with me are going to start as we've been planning ours, and we better be on the lookout. Ours is going to be very different from the men's. We know that the governor is sweeping with his deputy. They're sweeping the state as they're going along. And we're going to go back and give the mother touch to the campaign. So that's as goes with women empowerment at this particular time with the ongoing campaign. And I assure you, the women will ensure that the governor is reelected. In Edo, what we say is I'm sure you've heard about women usually in politics have the slogan in Nigeria, train a woman, you train a nation. You've heard that, haven't you? In Edo, what we say is neglect a woman, you lose election. So your governor is very wise. So he's empowered the women. And the women are telling him, we had a meeting yesterday, and they said to me, was it yesterday, a few days ago, somebody made a point that with this coming election, from her experience, she was an agent on the field. And she said that the women are really more reliable. So tell the governor to make sure he has more females on the field on that day, because the women are the ones who go out to vote. They stay there and protect their votes. They do not leave the polling booths until everything has ended. So with this empowerment of the women's wing, by the grace of God, there's no doubt that Governor Obaseki is returning for his second tenure in the next few weeks.
Thank you so much, Excellency. If my mom would have been alive, she would have told me the same things. My son, make sure you mobilize and vote for Obaseki, because her passion is, oh, you staying too long abroad, come home. And I say, Mommy, you see, it's kind of dangerous at home. They used to have a job. There's robbery anywhere. But now this thing is changing with the administration of Obaseki. And even the second term is even going to solidify on that. So that's really what I mean. So if she were alive, she would have said, yes, this is the time, my son, come. And I think a lot of people in the diaspora are also thinking in this direction to create that avenue, the platform for them to establish businesses And, and these businesses are going to employ quite a lot of youths. So we really have this advantage, you know, in the administration of GGO. So thank you so much. So I think I'll leave the floor now for my colleague, Evangelist Gladys Ogbede. Would you have questions from the house?
Yes, please. Once again, thank you, Excellency, for the great job you're doing. The next person to be called is Joyce or Roberts. Please unmute your phone. And while Joy is speaking, can Elizabeth Only Feather please get ready? Joyce or Robert, please, your question.
You can unmute yourself. Unmute yourself, Joy. Joyce in the house?
No.
We can't
Joyce
hear you.
or if you
Joyce is not in the house.
We can't hear you.
Okay.
Unmute yourself.
Can Elizabeth Only Feather?
We can't hear you.
Hi, my name is Elizabeth. I'll take that since Joy is not around.
Oh, Joyce is talking. It's just that Joyce
I'm here.
now she unmuted
It's
herself.
showing that you have to unmute me. That's what it's showing. It's showing that the host has to unmute me. That's what was on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, apologies. So please, let's take care of that. That it doesn't happen again.
Okay. Okay. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, you're welcome, ma'am. My name is Joyce Robert Ore. I live in the Netherlands. My question is there any program in place during the rehabilitation period for women in prison system, such as in the area of skilled acquisition programs to assist their reintegration into the society? I understand that it might not be in your portfolio, but at least if you could just look towards that direction, because they're also part of the society. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you for the question. I will gladly answer that because even though it's not in my purview, I got myself involved with interacting with, we call them students, not prisoners.
Okay.
I came up with a program, I think 2 years ago, where I decided on the 1st of October of every year, which is the day of Nigeria's independence, I pay a visit to the correctional centers, is what we call them now. We don't call them prisons anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I pay a visit there every 1st of October, spend time with them, interact with them. It's always such a joy, always so fulfilling. So with my interaction, I got to find out that they do have, I haven't gone around the states, but the ones that I'm familiar with have skills acquisition centers within the correctional centers. I actually, those bags from, whenever I go, I get gifts of handbags from the students there that they produce themselves, some from the condemned cell. And sometimes when I get home and I open the bags, I find a little note from some of them. I have had the joy of reading out those notes to my husband, and he was gracious enough to release some of those prisoners as a result. So yeah, they do have training programs in those centers, and I had actually planned to work with some other people, and that's going to be in my plan in the next 10 about God's grace, to get more support and collaboration from people from outside of government here to expand the training facilities across the various major correctional centers. I had spoken with some people who had agreed to partner with me. Sometimes, each time that I go there, I found they usually would come out and perform. They would have practiced certain performances, amazing performances. Then I've identified quite a few talents there with acting and singing. And I've spoken to a few people who had promised to support me to go set up, train, interact with them and organize trainings, voice training and, musical trainings for them, and also to help to wax some records out of there. So that's ongoing, and it's an area that I'm going to concentrate on and do a lot more work on.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. And the next person, who is Elizabeth Onifeather. Can you please unmute yourself, please? Elizabeth.
Elizabeth, please unmute yourself. No, you just click once, and then now it's better.
All right. Thank you very much. My name is Elizabeth Onifeather, CEO House of Memories in Abuja, and here I'm with
Mr. Issa Yusuf Sago, the Chief Mobilizer, PDP Vote Mobilizer, is attached to the PDP office here, Abuja.
Interesting.
Your Excellency, Ma, it's awesome, having a First Lady firsthand who is knowledgeable. And I am happy that our state, Edo State, will go places with you and the governor in the affairs of things. It's been a concern for us, the kind of reputation we have garnered as Edolites. And we're happy that we are now refocusing, our strength. What I would appreciate, Ma, is if we can assess what we can, as Bini people or as Edo, we can actually, export something, our strength, especially when it comes to a lot of the produce that we have that are wasted. So an industry that would actually, take care of Nigeria, be produced. If you have there in Aba, where they are having the garments and all that, we should be able to refocus Edo State. And I believe that with the kind of idea, and I've heard the deputy governor talk, the way you want to move, not having godfatherism in Edo State, the myopic nature, people who are more focused about futuristic, being futuristic.
Sorry
about
to interrupt you. Can you tailor your question to 90 seconds? Thank you.
Okay, make you carry your tickets, go. Okay, I say carry your tickets, go.
Are you done?
No,
we're not.
We're not done. Basically, the question is
90 seconds, please.
Well, the question is this. Well, what is the kind of mechanism does the First Lady have now in her kitchen that will help discourage our young girls from traveling abroad? Because that is key. We're looking at domestic women, but we should also look at those ladies, the young ones with some sort of perception of not wanting to contribute to the growth of Edo State, thinking that there's a better life out there.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Excellency. Can you switch off the music? So please, if you're not speaking, kindly, can you unmute Her Excellency, please? And for those not speaking, please mute your phones. Can you unmute Your Excellency?
Yeah. Could you tell her, Mr. Odibo, to unmute herself?
I think I'm good. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yes,
you.
we can hear you loud and clear.
Okay, great. Yes, so the government already is doing a lot in that space of rehabilitating returnees and also curbing the scourge of human trafficking in the States. I'm sure you're aware of that. Edo State was top worldwide, not just in Nigeria, before this administration came on board. And the government, I'm sure he talked to you about it. Didn't you ask him this question when he was here with you? This question wasn't raised. Anyhow, it's one of his major achievements. He set up a task force, and he's had all kinds of partnerships and collaborations with the European Union and the European countries that are the major destinations of these of the trafficking business. And he's done a lot of work already, which with the support of the Oba of Benin, which I'm sure you're aware of. And this has significantly reduced the incidents here in the state. And you'll be happy to hear that Edo State is no longer #1, not even in Nigeria. There are other states in the country that have overtaken Edo State with the human trafficking problem. So there's a huge success there with our work. But on my own part as a governor's wife, I have done my own little bit. I set up a shelter because the state government didn't have one at the time. I set up a shelter for the returnees, and the way it happened, I had no such plans. It just happened because the state government was already working on it, and I just happened to stumble upon these girls in Lagos. I was in Lagos with the vice president's wife, and she told me she heard that these returnees, they were bringing a plane load of returnees. They were landing in Lagos. They were going to be housed at some the NAPTIP shelter in Lagos. She had gone to see them. There were deplorable sights. She then decided to take the youngest of them to her own shelter because she's had this shelter for over close to 15 years in Lagos, where she caters to abused women. So she took them there just for the Christmas and the New Year, and was to return them back to the NAPTIP shelter when I had this conversation with her. And then I said to her, I've never really seen any one of these returnees. I would like to also see them. So she arranged for me to go to her shelter and see them. I got there with a few Edo friends of mine as support because I wasn't sure what I was going to meet. It was something I could handle. Luckily, I got there and I couldn't believe what I saw. The girls were all looking clean, neat, tidy. Apparently, they had been cleaned up and all of that. They had made their own clothes there, right there at the shelter. And I then found out that most of them were Edo citizens, Edo children. The youngest then, I think, was 9 or 10. And so I began to ask them why each one of them wanted to know what made them leave the country. And for everyone, it was just to be able to make some income to either go to school or to support their families. And a lot of them were really ignorant. I mean, they didn't know they were going to be, where they were being trafficked as such. They thought they were going, these traffickers always tell them they're taking them to get them good jobs abroad and all of that. So I then, I couldn't leave those children. I couldn't just walk away from them. So I called the vice president's wife and said to her, can I take them with me to Benin? The first I called the governor and asked him if I could bring them to Benin. And he said, oh, yes. So I then called and, she was glad to have her, to have me take them with me rather than return them to the NAPTIP shelter. So anyway, cut a long story short, we arranged and brought them over to Benin. So that's how we brought them over. They were kept in a government-controlled hotel, which is where they bring them, to keep them, when they bring them in before they rehabilitate them. Kept them there for a few days and then thought, let me also open the shelter here and move the girls there. So I did. So he gave me the money. I got a shelter and moved them in. And then I began to think what to do with them. I then thought, just what do I do? The only thing that came across my mind was to do what the government also does. They usually bring them in, profile them, and then begin to send them out, for different trainings. And because I already had this academy, which I set up in collaboration with the Lady Cobbler, which I'm sure you've heard about, Lady Mechanic, sorry. She's quite famous, happened to be a Bini girl. So I have this collaboration with her, and a young woman who's a lady cobbler, making top quality shoes and supplies to secondary schools and all that. And one other catering and hospitality outfit where they train the best, in the state, in this region, where they train people to be caterers, bakers, hotel managers and all of that. So I then got these girls to enroll them in these different academies. I asked them whichever one they wanted, they got enrollment to be trained. And so they've all graduated now. There was one particular one who had told me she wanted money to go back. She wanted to go to university. She had done her school set. She did well. She didn't have anyone to train her. She was going to, look for money to be able to go back to school. So I got her a tutor who prepared her for the JAM. She wrote the JAM, passed, and she's now in her second year in college. After seeing, these and the other girls who really didn't go to school, because I find that a lot of them are uneducated, and that's the reason why they're easily trafficked. So I then, like I said, like it was read in my profile, when they're trained, we give them starter kits to start their own business if they want to, and or attach them to companies where they can work and make a living. And then recently, I have enrolled them all in an adult education institution where they go after work to get some education, to be able to read and write. So as I saw some good success with that, I then thought, listen, one way to curb this menace is to stop it early. And like the governor always says, the only way to stop this thing, especially as we found that most of these children are uneducated, is to get them to go to school. Education is the solution. So because you find that when people are educated, they're enlightened. When they're educated, they're also skilled one way or the other. They've got some skills, and then it gives them hope that they can earn a living. And it becomes difficult for anyone to trick them, So I thought the best way to go about this is to go down to the primary, secondary school level and begin to catch them young there. So I then went to start setting up a junior academy, the same as I have with the older girls. I decided to set them up in secondary schools as an I call it the Betsy Obaseki After School Club. So after school, these girls are meant to go. The first one I'm setting up now is located in Idia College. The plan is to have one center to service about 9 schools around that center. So Idia College is going to service the schools around there. And the building is ongoing currently, where after school, these children go and learn some skill. Because as you know, university education doesn't guarantee jobs anymore in Nigeria. The one sure thing we found that puts food on the table for anyone is to have, like my husband calls it, handwork, to have some skill that is in need in society, that you can always, deploy and get some earnings. And so with the role models I have, another thing I have these female academies, Lady Mechanic and Lady Cobbler, is also that they act as role models for these girls. These are Bini girls, girls. The Lady Mechanic had a background similar to theirs, okay? And she's a millionaire today from being a female mechanic. The Lady Cobbler is a master's degree holder in petroleum engineering. She got into making shoes because she couldn't get a job. And she makes millions now making shoes. She could have sat at home and be waiting to get a job for years. Okay? So these girls, apart from training my girls in their handwork, they also mentor them, tell them their own story. When these girls look at them every day, they remember and they realize that, look, if these people were able to make it, and these are millionaires and they're young women like themselves, but there's hope for them. So that's one thing I'm doing in my own small space to catch them early, because when you empower these little children early, I am really and truly empowering them. They begin to fix their father's burst tires, change the tires, do small things like that at home, and the fathers give them tips. So they begin to earn some money early. And so it will be difficult for anyone to tell them when they're older that, you can make money in Italy or somewhere, because they've already learned to make money for themselves right here at home. So over time, we'll be experiencing a huge reduction in this migration, illegal migration. And another thing is, I've always said that this human trafficking syndrome happened as a result of a failure in government. Past governments have failed this country. It's like having parents in a family in a home, and you have children, you're not taking good care of them, the home environment isn't a happy one, and so you find out the children would always leave home to go elsewhere to look for happiness or look for food. If you're not feeding them, it's the natural way. So when people leave home to go seek better lives outside of home, that's because they're not getting what they ought to, what you're supposed to provide them as a parent. And so the government failed the people. That's the simple truth. So the only way to stop this is to have responsible government. Responsible government, having governments that do what they ought to do to deliver good governance and development to their people. Once that happens, people like you, who are already succeeding in America, wherever you are, would even want to come back home. Talk less of these young, uneducated children. If they have jobs here and they're empowered, they have skills and they're employed, or they find ways of employing themselves, they will go nowhere. So that's the bottom line.
Thank you, Your Excellency. So I'll hand over to my colleague, Mr. Basohan.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. Thank you. Okay. Our First Lady has really spent a good time with us today, and I'm sure everybody's happy and listening to her speak eloquently. Now, that said, the next person we are calling from the Zoom floor, Henry Bakari. Henry Bakari, please unmute yourself. And if we have a Princess Marian Momo on the floor, get ready. You are next after Henry Bakari. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Madam Mrs. Betsy Obaseki, you are welcome to the house. You have always been an adorable woman. I think all of us love you, but God loves you more than us. Yeah, I just want to ask you about pet projects. And we understand that Governor's wife have pet projects. Please, can you tell us your pet projects?
That word makes me laugh. I don't have a pet project, and I hate that expression. The reason being that in this part of the world, you see, when you say you have a pet project, it's a thing of luxury. It's like everything is perfect in your world, and so you're looking for one thing to pet. In Africa and in Nigeria, there's too much that's wrong and too much work to be done. So there's no time to pet anything. So my own approach is, I'm here as governor's wife in a supporting role, anything I find that I can do, that I'm allowed to do as a governor's wife, that bothers me, I just put my hands on the plow, grab hold of it, and begin to do it or address it. So as many as I find, I will take on and tackle, because there's too much work to be done, and really, like I said before, no time to pet anything. You only pet something when it is the only thing you have. You'll be petting it. But when you have 1,001 things to do, there's no special child, no pet child. So you just grab hold of everything that you can do and tackle as many as you can, as much as you can. And that way we get more traction.
Thank you, Your Excellency.
Can I use this opportunity to showcase my lovely handbag gift from the students in the correctional center? This is one that was given to me.
Awesome.
Was given to me by one inmate who was on death row.
Wow.
It's in the Nigerian colors.
Wow.
Wow, so beautiful.
A beautiful bag.
It's really
Beautiful
really
bag.
So they make these there. So you see, they don't have a skills acquisition place. They wouldn't be able to make this. This is another one.
Wow.
They all have hearts. Speaking of love. And I have one here, black and white.
Oh, wow.
Beautiful.
You see, these are all made at Oko prisons. Yeah. Oko Correctional Center, it's called now.
They are so beautiful. Okay, that's nice. Moving along, Princess Marian Momo. Unmute yourself, please. Princess Marian Momo. Unmute yourself to ask your question.
Good evening. Yes, I've unmuted myself. Good evening. I am Princess Marian Momo. Good evening, Your Excellency. My pleasure speaking with you this evening. I appreciate all you've been doing in the state. Like for me, I am an advocate for making sure that the girl child get the best. I have a center funded by myself and my twin sister. We're into humanitarian services where we train. In fact, yesterday I just had a certificate where I was trained by Action Aid to train the migrant. They call it Project 2 Migration. Now, for us that have been driving this hard to make sure that we take them out of the street and see how they can get better lives and put smiles on their faces. Though it's difficult for us to do on our own, we need to be encouraged, because we discover even most of the times people that get these opportunities to do this are actually persons that are not trained.
May I kindly ask you? May I kindly ask you to?
Yes, I'm asking how are we going to be supported to do more? Because we have a rehabilitation center, which is an individual thing, where we rehabilitate the returnees. We take those out of the street, the girl child roaming the street out of the street. We are that are doing it individually to do it better. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Over to you, Your Excellency.
Yes, I assume that your shelter or center is in Edo State, is it? Correct? Well, let's assume that's the case.
In Auchi, to be precise, ma.
Okay. Well, it will be good for you to write to the government through the task force, and they'll find a way of reaching out to you and finding ways to collaborate with you or to support you one way or the other.
Okay, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
I will do that again. Yes, thank you so much, ma. Appreciate. I will do that again. I had done that before, but I'm
And
going
then
to.
if you can write, what you should also do is write to my office.
Okay, ma.
Because I have I get some support with trainings from time to time from certain organizations, and because you have to have trained personnel in your shelter. So the caregivers in my shelter go for regular trainings. So I could also avail you of that opportunity to further train your staff, and then if I have I have knowledge of what you do. Whenever these opportunities come my way, I could also share them with you, so that you also benefit from them, so you could do more. Okay.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. We have a surprise in the house, great Edolites. Now we want to unveil the surprise. We are talking about no other person than the son of the soil, the husband of one wife, the one and only governor of Edo State, the wait and see governor, Governor Godwin Enoreyase Obaseki. Welcome, sir. What a surprise!
Thank you. Thank you very much, all of you. Thanks for putting this together. I really, really am grateful. I have been on the road campaigning, as you know, but it's been quite exciting over the last 2 weeks seeing you host other people who are related to me and the government. I'm sure from your interaction this evening, you would see that what we're trying to do is a seismic shift from the past. We're trying to set a new path, a new direction for our people and our politics. It's not about us, ourselves, it's about God and our people. It's about sacrificing and living to the essence of who we are. Our government, which we've run in the last 4 years, has been very, very clear. It's about Edo people. It's about trying to correct the misadventures and the unfortunate situations of the past, which have led us to where we are today. Continuing on the path we were is no longer an option. Because that path is not going to lead us anywhere. If anything, it's really, really devastating for us. Yes, there will be challenges. Yes, there will be, frustrations from people who are used to what it used to be. It's something we expect. It's something, thank God, we are prepared for and we've been paid for and we can cope with. I think the good news is that we have thousands, if not millions of you from across the world, at home, abroad, who are yearning for a better life. People who are ready to contribute to a new order, to the new world we're trying to create. I just want to assure all of you that no matter how challenging, no matter how difficult it may seem, we are very resolute because we know that God is with us in this, in this course. I'm sure you have been, this week, you have been reading the very worrisome attacks on people, on our supporters, on about violence. But be rest assured, we're talking to the agencies, the security agencies. I'm in Abuja as I speak, to speak with each agent of the federal government, that we must have this election. The strategy of the opposition is to create as much destruction, as much intimidation and violence, so that the elections will be postponed. They know they cannot win because they don't have a message for the people of Edo State. They don't have a track record of having worked sincerely for the people of Edo State. So the plan is to create as much disruptions, as much intimidation, as much violence, so that the elections be postponed if they cannot reach. That's been the experience. You're going to see that they are not going to relent. There may be, more incidents of violence, but be rest assured that, we will continue to ensure that we do the things we need to do. We will continue to preach peace. We'll continue to advocate nonviolence. But we will tame the lions and tigers because they are supposed to be in the zoo, not living with us as people. So once again, I want to thank all of you and to say that we really, truly appreciate the organizers of this event, both, who on their own over the last several weeks have put in their resources, put their time, and done everything for us to have, very, very robust conversations like we've had this evening. Once again, I want to thank you very, very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. Even for stopping by, it's highly appreciated, and I think everyone in the House appreciates that as well. For members of the House, we thank you for your patience, for holding on because you believe in the same thing. It's the same ideology. We all have a vision to change our state for the better, and that's why we're following the governor this way. And I think all Edos are with you, sir. I'd like to call on Dr. Loretta to round up this evening's. Dr. Loretta, please.
Hello, everyone. Good evening.
Thank you.
Can we hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Good evening, everyone. Everyone across the world. I want to thank all of you, but most importantly, thank you, Your Excellency, our First Lady, for coming in today. And not only have you answered the questions of the people, you showed them that part of you that makes you truly, truly Benin. We thank you for coming in. Importantly today, I want to thank everyone who has tuned in or who shares this every week. You are the most important people. The Zoom audience, you are simply fantastic. People watching on YouTube, Facebook, every other medium, simply fantastic. And I thank all of you for spreading the good word about a mega Edo, which we'll be having in the next 4 years. Thank you very much to the entire team across the world who organizes this every week. Once again, thank you, Your Excellency, for coming in. Thank you.
Thank you.
Goodbye, everyone. So,
thank you.
Once again. So go by the last talk to people, talk to people. Let's support this mega video. Bye.
Now we don't hear everything wey happen for this meeting. Abeg, before you go, make you help us share this video. And if you get anything to add join wetin they don talk for this meeting, you fit go to comment section, make you put your own for there. So make I leave you now, make you help us share this video. Thank you for watching Dan ARG YouTube.